Blah, blah, blah. Welcome, everyone, to a video podcast. You're actually going to see the people that I work with from Saturday Morning Samoflange.
Sorry, Internet.
Over here to my right is Mikey.
Hey, I'm Mikey.
And over here to my left is CJ.
Hey, guys.
Unfortunately, Bruce from Prince of the Universe could not join us because he is a girly man.
Some
right.
prince he is.
I'm telling you. Anyway, we've got our Count Chocula out. We've got our candy corn out. And it's getting close that time of year for Halloween, boys and girls. So today we thought we would show you our top 5 horror movies.
Oh.
Folks, I just want to tell you something. I actually counted down my scariest, my favorite, the classics, and then I took series that I liked. And then I added them all up. And you think I'd pick all the number 1s and all the number 2s, right?
Right.
But then I realized I ended up just picking up the ones that I enjoyed the most. That's what it boils down to. What do you enjoy the most? Whether it scares you or whether it's just good classic horror or whatnot.
Yeah.
That is how I compile my list. That's number 5, folks, is the remake. The only remake that I have on the list.
I think I saw your subscriptions drop like 10.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you lost me at remake.
No, Dawn of the Dead.
Okay. Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead, I
take
love the original.
I'll take it.
George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, but when the remake came out, and I wish Bruce was here, Bruce actually drugged me to the theater to see this, and I did not want to see this movie because I don't like remakes. But this is the one remake that I like. Not only do I like this remake, but it's better than the original, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't remember what podcast it was, but we had a big, long discussion about this. Was it the remake podcast?
It was the remake podcast. You heard me talk about this. That this was something that I had always been adamant against is remakes. And so when Dawn of the Dead gets a remake, no, that's a classic. I'm not going to do it. But then we went and saw it. You have fast-moving zombies. You have and I may do some spoilers here, but the zombie baby.
The zombie baby.
Oh! It's also one of my scariest movies I've seen, too.
I said this before, too, but now you can see my face. That part, I cannot watch it. Like, I'm totally like this.
It's freaky. It's freaky.
Except I'm not like this. I'm like this. No, I don't watch that ever. I'll never watch that scene again.
I love the Dawn of the Dead remake. That's the only remake I have. And that's the wrong. If I had remakes, that would be the only remake I'd have.
You mean you don't have like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake?
No.
You mean you don't have the Evil Dead remake?
No.
You don't have the Friday the 13th remake?
No.
I think they're actually coming out with a part 2 next year.
Oh, jeez. Anyway, so that's my number 5. Mikey?
Well, I don't have a list in front of me because these are so near and dear to my heart. I have waited all year to talk about this. I'm sporting it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown shirt. Number 5 on my list would be Nightmare on Elm Street. But particularly Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. Now the first one obviously is the classic. It's the OG. These movies, the whole series, I know that Bub just really gets crazy scared with these.
Megan loves that series. Yeah.
Loves them. I think Part 3 is the best one out of the whole bunch because of just the creativity, the ingenuity behind the deaths. The first one was really more about the teenagers. Freddy Krueger was more of a monster. He was more psychological. I guess he always is psychological, but it just had this undertone to it that was a lot different than starting with 3 on. And with a lot of those horror icons, it kind of happened that way, where like the original ones weren't meant to be what they ended up being.
Right.
A lot of this stuff in the 80s. The 80s was such a huge decade for merchandising and franchising things that by the time you got to Part 3 of Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger had become like this icon, and so they started changing him up. He started having more one-liners. He started being a little bit more funny.
They gave him more creative freedom.
Right. Yeah. And so like that's the reason why it's my favorite. I think it has the best deaths. I mean, I love the guy. I think my favorite one is the guy that's sleepwalking, and Freddy had cut his arms and had his veins and was like doing like the puppeteering thing.
Yeah.
But it marked a return for Wes Craven. So Wes Craven wrote and directed the first one. Wanted nothing to do with the sequel, and that's the reason why the sequel is pretty strange. Most people think that it's the worst of the series. And then even though he didn't direct the third one, he came back to write the third one. It also brought the heroine back from the first one, Nancy, but in a different role. So it was a good, passing of the torch and moving it forward. But that would be not my number 5. If
Well-
you haven't watched it, watch it.
Which, by the way, series are totally on the list. You can say a series is number 5. That's totally fine because I agree with that. Because you say, that's the thing. When I have a few series on here, and you want to say the original was the best one because that was the one that started it all. But at the same time, I really love 3. I think 3 is one of the best ones too. But there's a lot of other ones that are okay as well.
Right, yeah.
That happen as well. So there's a lot of good stuff within this. You're like, I hate just picking just one out of this. So you
It's so
pick the whole
hard,
series,
yeah.
but then of course tell us your favorite afterwards. So I'm totally.
I
fine
would
with
say
that
number
pick.
5 then would be the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
Yeah.
With 3 being my personal favorite.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. All right.
Number 5 for me is a newer movie. To me, I don't think newer horror movies, by and large, really capture it like older horror movies.
No, new ones suck. They're horrible.
But, however, there are some that come away that slip through that are really good, and a lot of times they're the ones that slip under the radar. Mm-hmm. My number 5 is such a one, called The Taking of Deborah Logan. I don't know if you guys have actually watched this one. I don't know. I only saw it on Netflix.
It is on Netflix. I've seen it on Netflix. I haven't watched
So the
it.
premise is this this med student is doing her I guess study on Alzheimer's. She's also suffering from demonic possession, and takes place at these really spooky angles. A lot of movies, especially newer movies, as you guys have seen, try to do like this like surveillance camera things, like Paranormal Activity. We're gonna set up these cameras
Right.
in these places, and we're gonna use these jump tactics and everything. They kind of play to that realm in some aspects, but she brought like a document crew with her, so it has a lot of like it almost has like a documentary feel to it. However, this movie, and the main reason it gets number 5, it's got 2 things that stand out to me. Toward the end of the movie, I'm not going to give anything away, but it has probably one of the scariest, most, oh my god, moments in any horror movie.
And that's
that
the
I've
part
ever
whenever Ace Ventura comes out of the rhinoceros's butt.
Yes.
Oh, wait, that's a different movie. Different movie.
The first, oddly enough, it has to do somewhat with butts.
Hey, all right.
All right, so the first one that happens before that is the smartest character in any horror movie is in this movie. The smartest character. I don't know if I want to go into it because it might spoil things, but
Sure mix a lot.
Not Canada's own Neve Campbell?
not Nev Campbell. Smarter than Nev Campbell.
All right.
I promise you that. So when you go back and you watch it, if you go out and watch the movie, if you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It's a little further than halfway through the movie. Smartest character in any horror movie. You'll know what I'm talking about when you watch it. But
Wow.
it took a 5 for me. It's just it's really good. It's really good.
Nice pick.
And now back to the snack.
All right, my number 4 is the scariest movie and even movie series I've ever seen.
Oh my god.
It is The Grudge. When I first saw The Grudge, it was the only time in my life that I had to go home and sleep with the lights on.
Whoa.
Usually horror movies don't scare me
Wait a minute, how old
that
were you?
bad. I was old enough to know that.
That movie
That's
came
the
out
thing.
like 2006. Hold on a second. Let's just
but
say
yeah.
that with the lights on, he could see his college degree on the wall.
Yeah,
that
I
he
could.
had already earned.
I could. I'll be honest, man. It scared me. And it's funny because I took one of my buddies, and one of my buddies didn't think it'd be that scary either. And he goes, "Man, that was really scary." I was like, "Yeah." He went, "No, man. I mean, it's really scary." I was like, "I know." I couldn't go into the attic for like months, my own attic, because I was freaked out. But that was just a really scary movie. The sequel scared me bad. I remember being in theaters, and I had like a Coke or something. I was twisting it really tight, like watching it going, ugh. And I remember there was this grandpa with his granddaughter, and his granddaughter just looked at me and she says, "Grandpa, look at him. Like, look at this guy. He's actually scared about this."
Now, was
Because
it
she
a-
wasn't scared at all.
I have a question. Was it a
Even the third one that went straight to DVD scared me.
was it a
little girl's
Coke
a
that you
jerk.
bought at the theater, or was it a contraband Coke?
It was contraband. I smuggled it in.
Absolutely.
It wasn't my conscience that was scaring me, though. It was the movie.
Good for you. Hey,
But-
so I've actually never seen any of the Grudges
good.
because I don't like new horror movies. Isn't Sarah Michelle Gellar in one of them?
She's in 2 of them.
2 of them. Okay.
She's in the first 2. and
The
then-
Grudge is inspired by a Japanese flick, right?
Right.
Like, well, most of these new horror movies are.
It's
I haven't
called It's with a J. I can't remember, but anyway, I actually loved the Grudge series, and it's super scary. And it's one of the first movies me and the missus watched together. In fact, when she came over to my house for the first time ever, I had just gotten Grudge 2 on DVD. I was like, "Hey, you want to watch this?" She went, "Sure." She'd never seen the first one.
All right.
That's your secret.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Somebody's gonna hold a grudge.
Bring them ladies home and pop in Grudge.
Yes. Ugh.
Anyway, All right, so that's my number 4. Mikey?
Yikes. All right, my number 4 is actually Friday the 13th, Part 4. Yes, so we can go ahead and throw the whole series in there if we want to put Friday the 13th. I adore the Friday the 13th like nobody's business. I love the atmosphere, especially the first 4. You know, if we want to get down to like breaking this down, you've got the first 4, which are all kind of one story, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they all kind of blend together, especially 2, 3, and 4. They're all supposed to be about like the same time frame, like the same couple of days. A lot of people don't know that just because it's such older movies, and they didn't, you know, these older movies, they didn't really care too much about the story. Anyway, number 4 is my favorite because, if I'm not mistaken, it has the most deaths. It has the highest kill count. I could be wrong about that, but I think it does. It's got the first appearance of Corey Feldman. It's called the final chapter, so it's supposed to be like the last, you know. So they kind of have like this really interesting ending to it. But it's got, you know, this big convoluted story with all these different people, and it's got all right, if you look at Jason, obviously he wasn't in the first one. The second one, he had on like the burlap,
right? Yeah.
And the third one, he gets a hockey mask, but he's this kind of weird, thick dude. In the fourth one, he looks like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in like a trash man suit. Like he's like 8 feet tall.
They change him too much.
Yeah, like he was a different person every one of them, and that's my favorite Jason because it's like this big, tall, like, you know,
lanky dude
going through the
forest.
woods. And the part whenever, I just love this part, and it always makes me laugh. The part whenever like somebody's on the second floor of this house looking out the window, and he like smashes through the window and like grabs them and throws them off the roof, and it's like this slow motion, and he's like as tall as the house, and he's like whoosh, and she goes like flying on top of the car.
I like how you're picking a lot of the classics, by the way. I appreciate that. That's
well,
good.
when I think about my favorites, you know,
there are a lot of the classics.
Number 4 is going to be another new movie, actually. It is one that I watched last night, in fact, and I had to change my top 5.
He changed his top 5 after last night watching a movie.
This movie is not really like a horror movie in the way of like taking Deborah Logan, where it's like, oh, this is gross, oh no, scary.
Let me ask you, I gotta just stop you just for a moment. How come the taking of Deborah Logan is about possession, but the taking of Pelham 123 was about, you know, taking over a subway car?
That's possession.
But it was a haunted subway car.
I guess it is.
And taking a Deborah Logan is demonic possession.
I just think that the taking of Pelham 123, the original or the remake, would have been better if it would have been demonic possession.
I think you're right. I can't hear taking a Pelham
not
123
John
without
Travolta.
thinking about a Beastie Boys rhyme.
Which is?
It's the taking of the Pelham 123, and if you want to do a battle, then come see me.
Okay. All right.
It is called Stonehurst Asylum. It is inspired by a story by Edgar Allan Poe called The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather. It is about this insane asylum. It's like I said, it's not a horror movie in the sense that, oh, this is gross, oh, somebody got, you know, and, you know, there are things that are just gross in that movie to me anyway, but it's more of a psychological horror movie. It's very, very cool, and I liked it so much that I had to change my top 5 and make room for this one at number 4. Anyway, Stonehurst Asylum. Go watch it. It's on Netflix. It's fantastic.
All right, my number 3 is actually a series. It's going to be the Scream series. I love the Scream series. Again, we're going back to Wes Craven here. The Scream series is really good because it kind of poked fun at the horror genre and kind of showed a lot of the cliches that you have in horror movies. Mm-hmm. And it was really ahead of its time. Everyone admits this. It redefined how horror movies were made after that. And so, just for its point, now the thing is, which one is my favorite? I guess you'd have to go with the original. But I really like them as a whole. As a series, they told a really ingenious story.
Even the fourth one, years later, was a quality movie.
Yes.
Probably better than the other two sequels.
It may have been, in a way, but it's really good. They're really well done. I wasn't a fan of the TV show, but
I haven't watched
the TV
yet.
show doesn't connect to the movies. It's
Right.
like it kind of a remake, a reboot, or whatever. But I do love those movies. I think those movies are fantastic. So that's my number 3.
Just to piggyback on that, because I didn't put it in my top 5. Like, I love those movies too. Like, they probably should have been on my top 5. They were like a close honorable mention. But you're right, they're so good. Like, I don't like modern horror movies, but Scream, I think, because it was Wes Craven. Yeah. And I mean, that's like 20 years ago. So how modern is that? But you're right. Like, you know, like Wes Craven really took like, his own inventions and creations and stereotypes and cliches that he was a part of making.
Would it be fair
and
to
flipped it on its ear?
And flipped on its ear.
Yeah.
And you could say that he started that with Nightmare on Elm Street, too.
Right.
He started the cliches, and he said, okay, you know what? I'm going to raise the bar for everyone.
Yeah.
Because I am horror.
Right.
Honestly, that's what Scream said to me. It's like, here you go, here's the new horror. And everyone started to reach that bar.
Right. And here's the cool thing about Scream, which me and you have talked about before. Anybody out there that has never seen Wes Craven's New Nightmare, all right, it was in 1994, and it was after the 6th Nightmare on Elm Street series.
I've never seen this.
It was whenever Wes Craven come back. He wrote and directed this, and it actually is a precursor to Scream.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
It is. It is
Yeah.
a precursor to Scream.
It really connects like the ideas of the original Nightmare on Elm Street to the ideas that he had in Scream. And so if you like Wes Craven and you liked Scream, let's say you saw Scream and you've seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street, but you've never seen New Nightmare, watch it, and it'll make so much sense, and you'll be like, oh man, that's
on my to-do list now.
yeah, that's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
You can see where that was like where Scream came from.
That's really cool. I have no idea about that.
Yeah, the idea.
That's very cool.
All right, so number 3, Mikey.
My number 3 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Specifically the first one. I don't want to say this is a series as a whole, although the second one is crazy as
I love
crap.
Dennis
gosh.
Hopper in the
Yes.
second one.
Dennis Hopper is fantastic. He makes me so
I would
happy.
say it's still on par with the first one because of Dennis Hopper's character.
Well, it's,
I love the second one.
plus just that whole like ending sequence, like at the end where they're all around the table down in those tunnels and all the dead people all around. And
It's great.
It's just gross and weird. Like it's so weird. But the reason the first one, two main reasons the first one is number 3 on my list, and there's no wavering in this at all. My 1, 2, and 3 were set in stone and have been for years. Because number 1, it's the way that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was filmed. I mean, it was early 70s and it was so low budget, but it has this dirty, grainy, like unprofessional type of like
Almost Grindhouse-like.
Yeah, it's very Grindhouse, but not like Grindhouse, like and it's not found footage or anything like that.
Right.
But it just looks so low quality that it almost kind of looks like you're watching a documentary. Like it takes you into that world, into that desolate, strange house in the middle of nowhere. And there's hardly any blood in that movie. There's it's just terrifying. It's just creepy.
Right.
Like it gets under your skin. That music just makes you feel weird. And by the end of it, like the ending portion, and I think we've talked about this before, that ending portion of that movie, the ending scene, whenever she finally gets away, spoiler alert, and she's running towards the highway, and the 18-wheeler comes out, and the guy gets hit, and all this type of stuff, and she gets in the back of the truck, and is slapping on the truck, and telling the truck driver to drive away, and she is like looking right at the camera, and the camera is like this real big close-up on her, laughing, and crying, and screaming, like all at once. And he's just back there, just swinging and dancing, and like it just stops, and it just leaves you with this like, holy crap! Like,
it was a good ending.
That is, it's not really the scariest movie. It's just if you sit down and watch it from beginning to end, it gets underneath your skin like any other movie.
I would say it's scary. I would say it's scary.
It pulls you into its environment, and that's what a good horror movie does. It pulls you into that environment,
Right.
And I think a lot of, I think it's fair to say, just not necessarily like old horror movies. Let's just say 21st century horror movies. Kind of, they don't do as well as the older ones that work. I think cinema as a whole, especially in the horror genre, worked harder in the 20th century because you didn't have the computers, you didn't have the animations, you had to rely on ingenuity of camera angles and costumes.
Well, because people had not seen it at that time, so like they were really trying to freak people out at that time.
Yeah, so a lot of those
people
ideas
have
are new.
seen everything, which is kind of what Scream, the Randy's character in Scream is all about. Like, everybody knows everything about horror movies. They know what to expect.
They've been desensitized,
Right. But at that time, like movies like that and other movies, I'm not going to name any because one of them's is one of my next ones. But like they were simple in that fact, But another thing about that movie that's really crazy to me is that like, it's based kind of loosely on a true story, and it seems like that type of stuff could happen. Like, it's not like all these people getting cut up and nasty stuff or whatever. Like, whenever the first guy that he hits with that hammer, like, right whenever he, like, opens up that door and he hits the guy with the hammer, it's so creepy because he just hits the guy with the hammer, the guy falls down, but the guy's leg is still kind of twitching. And it's like little things like that just kind of make it so real.
That's true.
And then, of course, whenever he grabs the girl and puts her up on the meat hook, like, it doesn't show anything. It's just that thought of, like, seeing her go up and seeing that pain on her face, and it doesn't ever really show the hook with her any blood or nasty. It's just you get to internalize what that would feel like to have some dude put you up on a meat hook.
It's letting the audience imagination carry the horror,
right?
And it rarely gets done now,
which is far more effective.
I believe that.
I agree with that as well. Now that's a great actually number. But would you number 3 is forgettable, but what do you think about number 4, Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
What
McConaughey,
when
Renee
you say number
Zellweger.
4? Yeah, okay, so 3 was forgettable, but it did have. I like the last part of it. It was kind of interesting. Would 4 technically be the one with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey?
I think it is.
Like, what was that called? Like the New Generation?
Yeah,
but
I think it's called The New Generation.
Yeah, like it wasn't all that bad. Like it was like 3 and 4 are kind of the same. Like it's not really scary, but they do kind of have like these weird kind of creepiness. I thought McConaughey was good because McConaughey
he's good.
He can play creepy really well. If you've ever seen a movie called Killer Joe, watch that movie. He's creepy. But yeah, I like 4. But then there was The New Generation. But then there was something else, wasn't there? There was.
I don't know what happened after that. I remember there's a few others, but I think they just started remaking them after that. Number 3.
28 Days Later.
That's a good one.
That's one of my honorable mentions.
It is it's another one that comes out a little later than some of the movies we've mentioned. But on my list, I'm kind of keeping it modern for the first 3 or 4 anyway. But 28 Days Later, it kind of takes the whole zombie premise and takes it a step further. You have these. You can call them zombies, I guess, for every intent and purpose. They are zombies.
Yeah.
They're just not flesh-eating zombies. They're not cannibal zombies.
Right.
And it's very cool. He borrows a lot, especially from 28 Days Later. He borrows a lot of his shots from Romero. That scene when he wakes up in the hospital in London and he's walking down the street. It reminds me a lot of the Romero flick.
Of course.
I won't go into detail on that because one of those movies are on my list. But anyways, 28 Days Later, you have these zombies who are afflicted with something called the Rage Virus. And the Rage Virus, they're not like regular zombies. They will just run after you full force, faster than any normal person, and just beat you until you die. I mean, that's all it is. There's no, they don't come to you to eat you. They just want to kill you. And if they like throw up on you or spit in your eye or whatever, you become a rage zombie too. If you think about zombies like walking at you, I can do something about that. But like 10 people running at you full force, I mean, to me that movie, it just gets it. I love
that premise really produced an awesome video game, Left 4 Dead.
It did, and man, that.
And the sequel is actually really good. 28
weeks later.
And I hear they're
going
to make 28 months later.
What's cool about 28 Days Later is it has like 5 endings. Watch the DVD.
Right, on the
buy
DVD.
It's got like 5 different endings. It's awesome.
All right, so good pick so far.
Thank you, sir.
My number 2 is actually going to go into the classic realm here, so it may connect with yours. It's Halloween. The series as a whole. If I had to pick one, of course you have to pick the... 1 and 2 are kind of the same story. It's the continuation of it. And I love the ending of 2. That's one of my favorite ones. But there's so much you could talk about with this series. But the thing I like this series better than any of the other series is because out of all the other series, they tried to keep a continuity. It wasn't always on point. You had to fudge a little bit here and there. But they did, like 4 and 5 did get explained in 6. That's why I love that one the best, because I really think it's awesome. Love watching the series. Even 3 makes me laugh because it's not Michael Myers.
Love 3.
3 is so much fun because back then they thought, okay, we're done with the Michael Myers story. Let's make different. 8 more days till Halloween. Silver Shamrock. Yeah. It was great. I want those masks. But it was a great one. My wife watched it once. She will probably never watch it again. She loves the Halloween series. Is not like number 3.
And little known fact, all right, Megan has had Michael Myers stalk her before and has a picture of it. She actually has a picture of him in his car watching her from across like a playground.
She took a picture of it empty. No one was in the car, and when she took the picture,
he was in the car.
when she looked at the picture, it looked like Michael Myers was in the
I
car.
need to
She
see
took the
this.
picture because it looked like the Michael Myers car.
I need to see this.
But there, she said there was no one in there. But if you look at the picture, so number 2, Mikey.
My number 2 is probably the scariest movie you will ever see in your dadgum life. I don't care who you are. It's called The Exorcist.
Ooh.
That's an honorable mention for me.
I know that it's old and some people think it's boring. I remember a couple years ago we watched it with some people that are a little bit younger than us, and because they have been brought up on a new style of horror, that the slow narrative, the slow kind of like psychological thriller type thing of that one didn't, I don't think, appeal to them all that much. But for me, and even them though, like they didn't like the first half of the movie, but there's things in that movie you cannot deny. Now I love that stuff. I think, as you probably can tell already, I love the psychological horror type stuff because I think it's much scarier.
That's,
That is
yeah,
scary.
I agree.
And if you have like this imagination, like I get into movies, so like that's the reason those type of movies really work on me, and it's by and large the reason why horror movies is my least favorite genre, if you can believe that. I really get into movies, my imagination works, so like they really do scare me. But you cannot deny these things at the end of this movie whenever she starts going crazy and taking the crucifix and stabbing herself with it and cussing out people and all this and all that. Like they build like this wonderful story, and then the end of it is so ambiguous and creepy and it's not a happy ending really.
No.
If I'm not mistaken, like the guy that played the young priest in the movie was like a Pulitzer Prize winning like novelist or whatever, and this movie was banned in countries and people like were having heart attacks and stuff back in 72 or 73 when it came out. Like it was a big deal for its time, and for me, I still can watch that movie 45 years later, 35, 40 years later, and it had the same effect on me.
Man, that movie.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So number 2, Mikey. I mean,
CJ.
CJ, sorry.
Number 2 for me is going to be the first Evil Dead. I talked briefly about how movies back in the 20th century and the 80s, 70s, and all that, and 90s had to work a little harder to me to be ingenious, and like budgets weren't even with those movies back then. Budgets still weren't as big as they are now. And then you have The Evil Dead, which didn't have it. Correct me if I'm wrong. It did not have a big budget.
It was a very independent movie.
And to me, what set this movie apart was just the ambiance. This cabin, they go out there, like even when they're just driving down the driveway. To me, when that
It was a real
when that-
cabin, and
right?
it
When that
wasn't just
swing
made
is
up.
just boom, boom.
The swing was made up, but the cabin was really there.
Oh my god! And then the shots when they're underneath, when he does that shot under the stairs.
Oh yeah.
I talk about this all the time.
The camera work is mentioned a lot as being
yeah.
revolutionary.
And not to
back then.
mention, to
It
me,
was.
one of the creepiest things is claymation. I don't know why. Claymation has always
scary.
freaked me out. I don't know what it is about claymation. It just gets under my skin. I can't. I'm so unsettled.
So does that mean if you had a dream about the California Raisins, it would be a nightmare?
Probably. I didn't like the California Raisins when I was a kid too. if the TV was on and like mom and dad.
Through the grapevine.
Yeah, if mom and dad were watching there was this old TV show like Mark Twain Adventures or whatever. They used to show it to us in school. No, I had to say I had to go to the bathroom or something, and I would stay in the bathroom until it was over. I couldn't do it, and then I was like,
Yay, Mark Twain, it's so great.
I can't do claymation, man. Evil Dead was great. I follow your soul. It was just fantastic.
Yeah,
Love it.
Evil Dead. I'm going to talk about it because that's my number 1.
Oh,
We're
damn
going
it,
into
of
it.
course.
No, that's fine. But it's my number 1.
Oh, it was
I
great,
love
right?
it. I loved Army of Darkness really well. I know it became more of a comedy as it went on. It wasn't supposed to be a horror by the third one, but I think those movies just escalated. They just got better over time. Of course, the first one is straight horror, no comedy. The second one has dark comedy, but
Let me ask you though about the first one because I agree with you. Like it's not my number 1, but it could be in my top 5 because these they're so wonderful. Do you think that the original one was not meant to be a dark comedy at all? Do you think that it was meant to be straight horror?
no, the first one was the original was supposed to be a straight horror.
The reason
Yeah.
I ask is because the Bruce Campbell factor, he has this level of making things so kind of like cheesy but deliciously cheesy, and I wonder if I wonder if like Raimi did that on purpose, or is that the reason why he made 2 a little more of a dark comedy, because he saw what he had in Bruce Campbell?
I think 2 was for that reason.
Yeah.
Also, there was way too much blood. The movie association, was it MPAA? Said there's too much blood, so that's why the blood is green, orange, black, blue.
Okay.
That's why it's all different colors, because he wanted to use a lot of blood, but if you use too much, he'd get an X rating for being too violent back then. And then that's when they said, hey, you know what, let's have fun with this. So The Hand,
Right.
the one, was it really just exploring his comedy, which Jim Carrey actually studied for Liar Liar.
Yeah.
Studied that film. Ash versus the Evil Dead comes out into this month, October 31st.
Yeah.
For Halloween. Don't go out. Just sit there, watch it on Stars. It's going to be fantastic.
All right, so my number 1 is Halloween. Yes, Halloween. It's the most perfect horror movie, in my opinion. There's so many wonderful things surrounding that movie. When you go back and really research, how independent it was. Like, I mean, for the longest time, up until one of my honorable mentions, Blair Witch Project, it was probably, I think, the most successful independent horror movie of all time, and maybe like the most successful independent movie of all time, just with what it spawned, how much money it made. But yeah, it's for everything that I have talked about and have really pleaded with you guys to understand where I come from. The simplicity of Halloween 1 is what gets me, and more importantly, the camera work. It's one of the very first times that you get to see from the eyes of the killer. Like, it starts off, like the way it starts off is crazy. I mean, the camera is the killer. It's first person, going through the house, watching, and that right there is just unsettling. And then you find out that it's a 6-year-old boy that kills his, sister. So then later on, the movie is just beautiful. The score, I think, is half of that movie. Like, I mean, obviously it's everything put together, but like that score is so simple, and still to this day when I hear that, like the hair will stand up on my arm. And the viewpoints. Now I agree with you. I absolutely love that 1 goes into 2, and that 2 starts right whenever 1 ends. And I agree with you. I love the way that 2 ends. I think it's a great ending. I do think it's kind of cheesy a little bit how he's like just swinging that knife. I think that goes on a little bit too long. But I like, it getting blown up. I like the doctor, getting blown up, him getting blown up, him coming out there on fire, like the burning mask, her just getting wheeled out, and then the, Mr. Sandman. The thing about those 2 movies that are so effective to me is that they seem like they could happen anywhere. It seems like they could happen like on your street, in your neighborhood, and they present it that way. Like it's a little bit slower at the first. You get to see like the leaves falling down. Like it's any town. It's fall in any town, any street. And it's not like some monster. It's not some supernatural creature. I mean, I guess to a degree, but like at that point, it's just a man. You know what I mean, it's just a man that grabs a mask and is like chasing after somebody.
Scary.
And that's scary to me.
CJ, what's your number 1?
Predator 2. It's an excellent horror movie. Covers all genres and encompasses all. It is the king of cinema. Action, adventure, horror, and comedy. No, but in all seriousness, number 1 is Dawn of the Dead.
Hey, he does rip that guy's spine and skull out. That's pretty creepy.
It's extremely creepy.
Anyway,
the
original Dawn of the Dead.
Wow.
You promised us more Romero.
Wow.
Original Dawn of the Dead. Look, to me, I mean, when it opens up, hello! Hello! Dun, 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 dun. I don't know, man. It's that movie just it does it for me. Like that, it's perfect. That's the perfect horror movie for me.
Wow.
And even when they're trying to like get that one zombie, what do they call him? I forget what they called him in it. The one they're trying to get him to be a human again. And
No, that's Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead, they're trying to get him to be human again.
Oh,
which
crap.
was good.
Hold on a minute.
Is it Day of the Dead?
I said Dawn. It's Day of the Dead.
It's Day of the Dead.
It was the Day of the Dead.
He's picking up the phone and
Yeah.
answering it? Yeah.
It's Day of the Dead. The first one.
That's the third one.
That's the third
Yeah,
one.
it's the first one they shot in color.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
Dawn of the Dead was in color too.
That was late 70s, and then Day of the Dead, I think, was what, early 80s? Yeah. So is it...
Day of the Dead, the one where he's walking through the town. Hello!
Yes, that's Day of the Dead.
You better have your editing glasses on.
All right.
Holy crap.
All right, so Day of the Dead is your number 1. Any honorable mention?
Yes. I'll get these right.
Go for it.
Insidious.
Okay.
Another new horror movie. Very
Wow.
good.
John Stepp loves that movie.
Can't Sleep Away.
Well, you talking about Sleepaway Camp?
That's Sleep-
Yeah, that's one of my honorable mentions, baby.
Look, hey, the movie itself is not like. I mean, it's kind of scary, but it sets you up.
It's got the best the best horror ending you will ever see in your entire life.
Set them up the way you set me up.
All I'm saying is that if you've never seen Sleepaway Camp, go watch Sleepaway Camp and trudge through it. It's cheesy, it's bad, but whenever you get to the ending, it will be an ending that you will never forget in your entire life. You'll be like, what in the hell did I just watch? It's creepy, it's weird, it's unsettling, a little bit funny. It's like, what? But you will never, ever, 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 ever forget it. I promise. I love, the Scream movies, that whole series would be honorable mentions for me. They probably should be a little bit higher, but I love the classics so much. I also really, really love, there's a bunch of obscure old slasher movies that I think are fantastic. There's one called The Burning. There's one called The Prowler. I love April Fool's Day. I love My Bloody Valentine. I love Final Exam. New
You're a
Year's
man of the
Evil.
classics.
Like I love, from like let's say whenever Halloween started in like '78 to like the mid '80s, like that slasher area. That's what I love, and they're all cheesy, but there's some like really, really, really good ones that are spliced in there. I'll give you a new movie as an honorable mention that I thought was fantastic, and it's a throwback to old movies, and that's The Conjuring.
I was going to say Conjuring is a throwback to old movies, and I love it.
I
I love it. That was one of my honorable mentions.
I think that it's fantastic.
It is fantastic. When a dark corner of the room is the scariest thing you'll ever see, that's great.
That is a scary one.
That's great.
Now, I didn't see the sequel, the Annabelle, but that's what happens these days. Like they make these good movies and then they,
Ruin
turn
them
them
with
into
sequels.
Exactly.
You know what I like? I love the fact I'm so appreciative that you guys are my friends because we went through this entire podcast about horror movies and nobody named Saw, and I'm so thankful
That's
for that.
not a horror movie.
Because
With
they're horrible.
With Saw, there is a certain horror to Saw. It's a gore
Right,
horror.
exactly. Torture
with
porn.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
with a good storyline though. It does have. I think
The first one had an interesting story with kind of this clever
Right.
twist, and I'm like, okay.
and they kept continuing it, which I can appreciate, but it's not going to be in my top 10.
Well, and there's
Right,
something
yeah.
to be said. Saw is
but
almost.
I do appreciate Saw for what it is.
Saw-
I don't have them. I watch them each once. I probably
Yeah.
won't watch them again.
Yeah.
But
Saw is
I thought they were
almost.
fine.
It
They
achieved
were.
that, like, almost like that song that you don't like, but it's in your head anyway.
Oh yeah,
It's-
like Happy by Pharrell.
Yeah, God.
Ugh.
Anyway, you watch the movie, you're like, okay, but then another one comes out and it's the same story. You're like, do I? Yeah, God. And then you're still disappointed, but you're gonna keep watching the story because you've already invested. I ended up watching the whole story. It was,
My
it's
other
not a horror
honorable
movie.
mentions
Yeah.
were The Descent, 1 and 2.
Ooh.
I love The Descent. I think that's a
Yeah.
I think those are fantastic movies. You got Exodus is one of my scariest, but also number 5 on my scariest would have probably been Session 9. I don't know if anyone's seen Session 9. It kind of it's real life scary, which I think is one of the most scariest ones. It's things
I got
that
some
could really
honorable
happen, and the history in that building that they filmed it in is all real.
Yeah.
Like it really was an insane asylum that got shut down because they were doing experiments and with the insane people because no one cared about them. So that was scary. Go
I
ahead.
have 2 more that I have to get out. The Fourth Kind,
Okay.
Wait, is that the one with Mila Jovovich?
the alien abduction.
Oh yeah. You like abduction movies,
Dude.
possession and stuff.
Alien abduction's scary, especially if I was abducted by a predator too. The next one I want to mention is Drag Me to Hell, Raimi.
Oh yeah,
That's a good one.
That movie's
That's a really
great.
good one.
Yeah,
That's
I
a really
love
fantastic
that
movie.
movie.
Drag
And
Me to
Raimi
Hell.
hits another home run there.
He does. That movie's fantastic. Yeah.
Honorable movie series mentions would be Chucky,
Yeah,
Child's Play,
always
which are
fun.
fine. The first 3 especially
That
are really
movie scared
good.
me when I was
But
a
even
kid.
the newest one.
Yeah, the new one was a lot
The
better.
new
than,
one was
yeah.
great.
Curse of
New
Chucky.
Chucky?
Curse of Chucky.
Yeah,
Came
you
out,
should watch
what,
it.
last year or 2
Yeah,
years
yeah,
ago?
about a year or 2 ago.
It was great. And then
Love those.
I kind of go back and forth on these, but overall I'm going to say Hellraiser. Hellraiser's
yeah,
another
dude,
one that's,
yes.
Pinhead's a classic. You can't deny that. The movies are pretty good. I haven't seen all of them. In fact, they're all on Netflix, and I don't know where I stopped.
I can't really watch those. Like those.
I know.
To me, I don't know why.
There's a lot of gore in that too.
It's gore, but
torture.
Well, yeah, I think that's what I don't like because I don't mind. I hate gore in new movies because it's too realistic and I believe it. But like. The gore in the old movies is funny to me, because it's all like special,
it's all
like
campy
makeup and stuff, and being like an actor and stuff like that. Like I get behind.
But Hellraiser, even the first one, it looked real.
It does,
and it's a very old movie. It's an '80s movie too.
What's funny about
it looked really real. And the thing is, those movies are okay. Like I said, they'd be last on my series honorable mentions, but they're pretty good. I kind of do want to see them all, but I kind of don't.
I haven't seen it on Blu-ray. I mean, like some of these older horror movies, when they put them on Blu-ray, you see things that you couldn't see in the original because it was shot through different filters and everything. They haven't cleaned up. I have it on good authority. A good friend of mine watched it. I haven't seen it yet because I need to see it for myself. But in Hellraiser, the first Hellraiser, when that demon is running down the hall, that's like two demons connected at the waist, and they're like running down the hall. He says on Blu-ray, if you watch and you slow it down because it's on Blu-ray and they've cleaned it up, you can see a guy in a red cap pushing it like.
Oh, I believe that. The Blu-ray transfer of older movies gets on my nerves.
It doesn't,
because I think take Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you watch like a newer Blu-ray cleanup version of it, I think it would be a lot less effective.
Yeah,
because I don't want it to look too good. I want to look, like The Omen, the original Omen.
Yes.
That's a great movie.
Except for Predator 2 on Blu-ray, that's a good one.
I will agree that Predator 2 has a nice cleanup. You can really see the sweat drip off of Danny Glover's forehead whenever he is just getting chased.
Yep.
Anyway, my other honorable mentions. Some of the classic ones that I just really like that didn't get mentioned. Dead Alive, which is Peter Jackson at his best. Honestly, Peter Jackson should have stopped making movies at Dead Alive, and then I would have appreciated him as a director. Have you seen Dead Alive?
I have seen Dead Alive.
It's great. The guy it's almost like a precursor to Evil Dead. If you love Evil Dead, you will love Dead Alive. It's basically the same presence. Well, anyway, the other one would be an original Salem's Lot. I get picked on a lot for this one, but Salem's Lot has some really creepy scenes. The little boy floating at the doorway, tapping on the glass. He has the vampire eyes and kind of vampire. He's like, let me in. Just let me in. It freaks me out. And the old man, the rocking chair, you said I was invited whenever I wanted to be. I love Salem's Lot, the original. Even the goofy blue vampire with the buck teeth, vampire thing.
I'm a little shocked no one mentioned the Hills Have Eyes.
Poltergeist, Hills Have Eyes. So there's a lot of classics you can mention. No one mentioned Stephen King, which I'm kind of shocked, but not really because there's so many good movies out there. But It, The Shining, Pet Sematary 1 and 2.
Well, 1 and 2 are scary.
To me, that's some of the best of Stephen King.
1 has the edge to me.
Well, I'll tell you. You know what? There's a movie that I just thought about that I don't think would make my top 5, but it would be in my top 10, and that's the original Carrie. Carrie to me is still effective.
Like I said, he made a lot of. I love all the ones I mentioned a little bit more than Carrie, but Pet Sematary 1 and 2. The Shining are great. Even the new one I say new, it came out about 10 years ago, but The Mist is fantastic.
Oh yeah,
it's fantastic.
Tom Welling.
No, not that one. That's The Fog. Not that one.
Yeah.
It's The Mist.
The Mist is pretty creepy.
It's really, really good. It really makes you.
That one,
You're kind of stuck in that grocery store with the fog rolls in.
It's Prom Night.
It's fantastic. There you go.
Hey, you know what else we didn't name? I love this movie. If we talk about zombies, I don't even know if you'd put it in like a horror movie, but it's a zombie movie. To me, it's like the best zombie movie I've ever seen, to be honest with you, and it's because of the ending, and that's Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, that's a great movie.
The one from 1985.
That's a good one.
It has the. Have you seen that?
That'd be an honorable mention.
So.
Like it's got the best ending to any zombie movie because it's what they always want to happen. Like they go through the. I want to spoil it for everybody, but I can't.
Okay, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
but like what they do at the end of that movie is what they should do at the end of every zombie movie, just to, eliminate the threat. And
I think zombie movies should be like Zombieland now.
I liked the first half of that. Aren't they making a sequel to that?
Probably. Who knows?
I'm like you though. The first half I was like, this is good, and then I was like, Dragon Ball Evolution. What? It may not have been a horror movie to you, but it was a horror movie to me and millions of fans. We cried openly. We hid under the beds when we got home.
Oh my
God. We didn't come out.
All right. Anyway, there's our top 5 horror movies. Once again, thank you for the 1,000 subscribers. I hope you enjoyed this video podcast. I know these guys did. And tell us what you think your top 5 are in the comments. We want to hear. Actually, talk about it on the next Saturday morning Samoflange. Also, I'm going to Knoxville, Tennessee this weekend for the Fanboy Expo. If you're going to be there, I'd love to see you. All right, folks, that's it for me.
Goodbye, everybody.
We'll see you later.
No, I mean, I'm good. I think we needed.
All right.
I think we could get closer, actually.
No, you don't have to get closer. All right, are you ready?
There's no reason not to, Matt.
Yes, there is.
Saturday morning Sam.
Hey-o!
We want these people
All
to
right,
know
here we
exactly
go.
what we do every Saturday.
Oh yeah, this is what I do for sure.
Oh, wait, get the Count Chocula.
Oh yeah! I'm gonna get my list.
Go.
This is regular, all right? What you don't know is that this happens all the time. Matt just edits it out. Edits it out.
And we're actually
In the horror movie genre, you can put it into what movie scared me the most, what horror series was good, because I like sometimes a series for the series.
there's peanuts in here.
Yeah, sometimes when I was thinking of these movies, I'm like, which one do I put? You
It
know?
tastes really good.
So,
All right, so let's just go ahead.
I'm gonna dip this into a jar of Jif, and it's really good.
I got peanut butter if you want to put peanut butter in these.
I'm gonna try that.
It's in that cabinet up there. All right, while he is getting this one up here, right up here, right next to me. Yeah, that one. Boom.
Whoa!
Just regular crunchy. Bring it. All right.
Yes.
So now we have peanut butter with our candy corn. We're gonna try this out.
Try that. See what you think.
We need to get a spoon.
get a.
God gave you spoons.
Oh, you don't know where anything is.
I don't.
It's right in that cabinet right here, by the plant.
I only go to the one room.
I'm sure that America
By
really
the
just
plant.
wanted to see us point and giggle.
Dang, that is good.
It is great, isn't it?
Damn it, guys! Now I gotta do it. Hey, what about the pumpkin? I want to try the pumpkin.
Here.
I don't know,
Just
but
dump
that
it in
is
there.
that is
Just dump it.
tasty.
Isn't that great?
All right.
Just dip it.
That is delish.
Yep. Yep.
Pretty
Just
fantastic.
keep bringing the
You
spoons.
know what
in.
it is though? It's the peanut butter. Right? Peanut butter with anything is good.
Peanut butter jelly,
Yeah.
peanut butter honey.
We're just gonna make it so hard for Matt to edit this. Like this whole thing is
All
just gonna be
week.
like. And I'm practicing my attending skills that I learned in counseling classes. I'm actively listening. Now, okay. So, CJ's turned into bartender / butler over there.
That's how good a host I am. I get other people get my drinks for me. I did one.
Which is the Kane Hodder J.
Wait, how does my Chewbacca impression sound from back here?
Do it. It sounds like an impression. Why don't you give us like a Chewbacca mad? I think you're just holding it too long, and it just gets into like the realm of
That sounded like
of musical comedy.
all this stuff about horror movies has got me on edge. Edge of my seat over here.
I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now. If you paid Caleb to show up in that Scream outfit, like America's gonna see somebody freak out.
I don't think you'd have to pay him.
All
No.
right, no, he'd do it for free. He's done it before. Wow.
Predator 2! 2! Hey, guy on YouTube, I hope you're watching. Oh, this guy's always talking about Predator 2, so I don't know what's up with that. Well, guess what? I talk about Predator 2, and it's awesome. Alright? Watch it on Blu-ray, dude. I don't know what
As
are
I
you
funnel this peanut butter in
yeah.
my mouth.
What are you let me ask you, friend, what are you watching? What are you watching, like bonus materials and Star Trek? Oh, I feel like Captain Kirk was the superior commanding officer. No. Danny Glover would rule the Enterprise, and he would also be a Jedi, I'm convinced of that.
Danny Glover would rule the Enterprise. You need a shirt that says that.
Tell me you're gonna put these outtakes up there.
I might put a little bit.